Well, Razorback fans, we finally pieced together Arkansas's non-conference schedule for the season. There's some great games at the top, but the rest leaves a little bit to be desired.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the Pod at the Palace edition. Curtis Wilkerson here with you this afternoon. And yeah, like I said, I think we finally put together this non-conference slate for John Calipari's first season at Arkansas. We were getting closer and closer. It felt like, about once every few days we catch wind of another game. By my count, I think we finally have all 13. Hasn't been officially announced by the university, so I guess some times, dates, whatever could change. But it looks like we finally got this thing figured out. So wanted to talk about it a little bit. Thought it'd be fun to go through and maybe rank this non-conference schedule game by game from most to least exciting, or maybe we'll go from least to the most exciting, because we know there's some really awesome games at the top, but the rest of the slate's a little with the bye games. So that's just kind of what you find throughout the course of the country. There are very few teams that play just a ton of super high profile games in the non-conference. You got to have the bye games. You got to have the easy ones where you kind of learn a little bit about yourself and you get to use your depth. Some of those feel good games, maybe not FCS UAPB level stuff, but you're going to have those mixed in there. It's just the way it goes. But let's kind of dive in and talk about this a little bit and see what we think. I'm curious to see if anybody else's matches up with mine. So we'll start at the bottom and work our way up from the way I see it. So at number 13, no disrespect, I got North Carolina A&T. That game is on December 21st. Here's the thing. These games are always not great. They're never high profile opponents. This is usually like the week after finals end. So all the students are gone off of campus. It's right before Christmas. It's going to be probably your smallest home crowd of the year in most cases. So usually you don't bring in a banger of an opponent for those. It's just kind of the way it's always been. Add in the opponent here, North Carolina A&T. Like I said, no disrespect, but there's nothing like playing a MEAC school who lost 25 games last season a couple days before Christmas. I don't know how much that does for anybody. Whatever, should be a good one there. I wouldn't think Arkansas is going to get caught, but there's really not a lot of pop with that particular game on the home schedule. Number 12, and honestly, these first few here, you could probably put them in any kind of order. I've got Pacific here. That game is on November 18th. Here's the thing. Pacific lost 17 straight games closed last season. That ain't great. That's not great. Now they do have a new coach. They do have a couple notable players. Lamar Washington played at Texas Tech. Jazz Gardner, nice player, 7-footer out of Nevada. We remember Eric Musselman's days at Nevada. Didn't play from us, but he's been there. So a couple notable names, guys that you're familiar with, but they're not expected to be very good. And that kind of comes, I think, during a time where you've, maybe just finished up, playing this Baylor game, and you got a little bit of a break in terms of high profile stuff until you get to that Thanksgiving game against Illinois. So a little bit of a filler there. Like I said, you got to have those. It's in Bud Walton. That's cool, but I don't know how excited people are going to get, in particular for Pacific. Number 11, I've got Maryland Eastern Shore on November 25th. Yeah, I don't know that much about Maryland Eastern Shore. I've joked with John before on this particular podcast about it, where the main reason I know that Maryland Eastern Shore is even a school is because back in the day, you'd go buy a Mountain Dew and you'd open the bottle cap and there'd be a team name, a college team name under the cap. If that team wins the national championship, and you could take it in, redeem it, and get yourself free Mountain Dew. And that was at the time when Maryland was really, really good, like competing for Final Fours. But there was a difference. You could get Maryland College Park, which is the Maryland we all know, the Terps, or you get Maryland Eastern Shore, and you'd be like, dang, man, that ain't what I wanted. At any rate, they were 9-20 last year. Here's the thing about Maryland Eastern Shore. They went 0-15 on the road. Not very good, but there's some, if you believe in like the transitive property stuff, I guess you could be intrigued by this. They will have already played Vanderbilt by the time they come to Arkansas. That's cool. And they also will play Illinois right before coming to Arkansas. So you get a little bit of a barometer there, I guess, because Arkansas's game right after this Maryland Eastern Shore one's going up to Kansas City and playing against Illinois. So take that for what it's worth, whatever. Number 10, I had the latest edition. This was kind of the final piece to the puzzle. UTSA, Texas San Antonio, December 7th. Familiar name there. Arkansas's played them quite a few times in the past. A little bit of history there, I guess, but this game kind of is what it is. I think it's better than the first 3 games, but doesn't necessarily move the needle. Here's the thing. It's, I think, low key interesting just because former Bama assistant coaches over there now, they maybe trying to rejuvenate that program. They've struggled a little bit the last couple of years, but you're probably going to see that very same system. There's going to be quite a few familiar names on that roster, but it's guard heavy. They're going to have a bunch of dudes who shoot a bunch of threes. So I think in terms of like the aesthetics of just like watching the game should be one where both teams kind of get up and down a little bit. You got some threes, some excitement. So that one might not be too bad. I got it at number 10. Number 9, I've got Troy at November 13th. That's going to be, I think, the first game post Baylor when they play that game in Dallas. Here's the thing about Troy. They've won 20 games 3 years in a row now. So I know it's a mid-major. I think people might think of them about their football team a little bit more than basketball, but they've been pretty good. They nearly beat Arkansas and Bud Walton a couple years ago. Do you guys remember the Hogs came back from Maui and Troy was that weird game where Devo had like temporarily left the team. Nick Smith made his return, but he didn't play that much because it was a weird game. Arkansas seemed like they had super heavy legs, and Troy zoned them like the entire game. It really gave them fits. I'd imagine they'll zone Arkansas again. So it would be a good early test to see how they handle that under John Calipari. So I've got that one at number 9. Number 8, this might be the first controversial one for folks out there who are listening to this. I've got UCA on December 14th at Simmons Bank Arena in North Little Rock. Here's the deal. I'm glad that they are doing an in-state game at Simmons Bank Arena. I like it. If you're not going to be able to get I think I watched them play Texas Tech in there. Like if you're not going to be able to get one of those really good opponents in, I like an in-state matchup there better than I like, Bradley or Hofstra or some of these other teams that they brought in there. It's cool. It adds a little bit to it. I like that. The crowd is always awesome at Simmons Bank Arena. I really like going over there. I know they had the weird deal with the lights last season, not turning on before the game, whatever. The crowd is awesome. The atmosphere is a lot of fun. I enjoy that game. Hopefully Calipari handles it better than Eric Musselman did. So we'll see about that. So we'll see. Those games tend to get weird over there. UCI, I don't think is going to be very good, but like I said, you play that game in Little Rock or North Little Rock, and you've got an in-state opponent. That's pretty cool. November 7th, I'm going to go with the opener against Lipscomb. You're always excited for the opener, especially when it's the debut of a new coach, right? So that should be pretty fun, pretty cool. And here's the thing about Lipscomb. They gave Arkansas, a heck of a game in North Little Rock last year. I think they were down by 20, came back. What was that? That wound up being like a 3-point game. And they've got some pieces coming back. They're a well-coached team. So that should be fun. Sneaky good opener. A lot of times you play a tomato can in the opener. I think Lipscomb's a step up from that. Should be a game that Arkansas takes care of business in. But it's going to be, almost ceremonious in terms of Cal making his debut. If it's been surreal for you so far, maybe seeing that man finally on the sidelines coaching the Razorbacks, and it'll become reality for everybody. We'll see. Number 6, I've got Oakland on December 30th. I actually wish the students were back on campus for this game. It's a good one before SEC play. Obviously, some great storylines there with Oakland, who knocked Kentucky and Coach Cal out of the NCAA tournament. That upset win last year, and now they're running it back. I know he's got a really good relationship, Cal does, with Coach Campy there at Oakland. They're not the same team. Golke, who hit 10 threes, is gone. Their best player transferred. I believe he's at Arizona now. But they'll still be a tough team, talented team, a good mid-major. And so I like that game for the storylines for sure. That's a good one. We'll get to the top 5 here in just a second, but first let's take a quick break. All right, everybody. I tell you what, we got to talk about our partners over at Factor Meals. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, no prepping, cooking, cleaning up. I know I don't have time for that. Do you? This is a good thing. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Whatever your goals are, Factor Meals can help you reach those. Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use code lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's a deal right there. That's code lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. All right, moving on. We're back for the final 5 games, the top 5 games on this non-conference schedule for Arkansas. Number 5, like I think we know what the top 4 are, right? We've been aware of those bangers. So what was the best of the rest for me? Believe it or not, it's Little Rock coming to town on November 22nd. I really, really like this game, actually. Not only nostalgic game with Darrell Walker coming back, leading the Trojans in here, but Little Rock's really, really good. They're going to be a tough mid-major. I think they're a team that could win their league. They nearly did last year and could be knocking on the door of an NCAA tournament. You see KK Robinson coming back. Now, I know he's not going to be playing against all of his former teammates or his former coach and Muss. So that part of it's not going to be as big of a deal. But here's the thing. KK he's a key player there for Little Rock. This is not like what he had going on at Texas A&M. He's their guy in the backcourt. So it will be fun to see him back in Bud Walton Arena in a different jersey, but actually playing. And they've got some other names that you know. Mwani Wilkinson, feel like we've seen him for 10 years at LSU. He's over there now. Jonathan Lawson, brother to Chandler Lawson, who played, I think he was at Creighton, was it? And so a lot to like there with that matchup. I think it's going to be a pretty good test for Arkansas. It's on November 22nd after a little bit of a layoff there. Should be a fun one. And then let's get into the top 4, right? What order are we going to put these in? I would hear an argument for a little bit of everything here. I've got Miami in the SEC ACC Challenge on the road on December 3rd. I'm not sure how good Miami is going to be. I think they're a fringe top 25-ish team. I think they'll be a tournament team, but there's been a lot of turnover with Jim Larinaga and that roster. They're just a couple of years removed from a Final Four. I wish this was a different ACC matchup. I get it. Not giving them Duke again. I get it with wanting to run it back between North Carolina and Alabama after that game in the NCAA tournament. I would have maybe liked to see Louisville with the Coach Cal angle there. That would have been fun. Virginia's a good one. But whatever. Miami's going to be one of the top 3, 4, 5 teams in the ACC, and it's a true road game, which Arkansas needs before they get an SEC play. A good test there. Number 3, I've got Illinois on Thanksgiving Day in Kansas City. I think it's a great game. I love it. A feast week special, a one-off. It's regional. It's on CBS after the football game. That's historic. But even though it's close, I think being on such a big family holiday creates a little bit of a dilemma for some fans on what they want to do there. Now, Arkansas will be well represented in Kansas City. I have no doubt about that. But that's the only I had to separate these somehow. All right, so that's how I did it. Sue me, right? Number 2, I've got the opening week banger, man. November 9th against Baylor at the American Airlines Center in Dallas. Great. I mean, I absolutely love this game. Scott Drew versus John Calipari. Both teams that are going to be, looked at as contenders, surefire top 25 teams. Baylor might be a top 10 team coming into the season. I love that matchup. I love the early challenge for Arkansas. It's just going to be a really, really good game, a contrast to styles. And it's going to be, I haven't looked at the entire opening week slate, but this has got to be one of the top 2 or 3 games on it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really, really happy that they were able to get across the finish line on this and put it together late, because it was a late addition to the schedule. A really good one, Arkansas Baylor on November 9th. Number 1, listen, I don't know that Michigan is the best opponent of these top 4 here on December 10th, but it might not be the best game, but it's the Jimmy V Classic. It's Madison Square Garden. I mean, it's literally the biggest stage of the college basketball world, and Arkansas is going to be on the spotlight there. How cool is that going to be? How many Razorbacks are going to be at Madison Square Garden for this. I mean, it's going to be absolutely incredible. I'm really, really pumped for it, excited for it. These are the kinds of spotlight games that John Calipari is going to get you. Look forward to having those on the schedule moving forward. This is an awesome, awesome opportunity for Arkansas to play in the mecca of basketball, not college basketball, but basketball in general. I'm really, really excited about that. So there you have it. All right, everybody, I want to talk to you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. That's something we're going through right now as we're busy putting together content and coverage for the college football season, while also trying to make additions to our talented staff. We can't afford to waste time sifting through incomplete resumes and unqualified candidates. LinkedIn Jobs streamlines the process and makes it really, really easy on people doing these interviews. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, everybody, we're back here for the final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the Pod at the Palace edition. Just some final takeaways from this pre-SEC schedule, this non-conference slate for the Razorbacks before we get out of here. One, listen, as great as these four marquee matchups are at the top, and they are awesome games. I mean, think about it. You're playing in Dallas, perfect. Playing in Kansas City, perfect. Two regional neutral site games that fans can travel to easily. Playing in Madison Square Garden, it doesn't get any better than that. True road game against an ACC opponent. Love it. After that, leaves a little bit to be desired. And quite honestly, it's disappointing, I think. And I understand they got an exhibition with Kansas there, but it's disappointing to go through year one under John Calipari without a notable home game that counts until you're well into SEC play. It's a shame. Now, listen, I get it. It's tough to get teams to come to Bud Walton Arena under any circumstances, but especially when you get a late start on scheduling. So I'm not criticizing John Calipari here at all. By the time he started scheduling, a lot of teams throughout the country are already done. So like the pool of games you can get is limited. So for him to have the schedule that he has, it's really, really impressive, but it is lacking in the home department. So hopefully that gets better in the future. I know that they tried hard to get a home and home series with a few different programs. I'm wondering if maybe they'll get something going with Kansas moving forward. Hey, they were full, whatever. You got the exhibition. That's kind of a good faith opportunity, I think, to set up what would be a home and home that made a lot of sense in the future. I think Arkansas is going to wind up getting some marquee opponents to come in the non-conference schedule into Bud Walton Arena. And I don't mean just the SEC ACC challenge. Like next year, they'll get a home game with an ACC opponent. I'm talking about beyond that. So maybe they can rekindle that flame that he had going on with Gonzaga. Maybe his buddy Kelvin Sampson at Houston wants to run a series or something. Maybe they'll finally get the Memphis game going. I don't know, but I do think that's going to happen in the future. A little disappointing for Razorback fans. It's not happening right away, but there's some great games in SEC play that they can look forward to for sure. Want to talk about just a couple potential trap games maybe to be aware of. We talk about this early, and then we're going to dive into the full schedule as we get a little bit closer to the season. One that stands out to me, the opener, right? I mean, I think folks are going to be pumped up for the debut, Cal and the Hogs, but you can't look ahead to that Baylor game just a few days later. Lipscomb should be, a smooth 15 to 20 point win. But we saw last season just how pesky they can be. They're well coached. They make threes. They've got good players. They don't turn it over. You got to come ready to play. I think they will, but it's at least one to keep an eye on a little bit because you want to have tunnel vision one game at a time, right? You got to go 1-0 this week. That's what they say in football. Go 1-0 every night. If you're the basketball program, you don't want to get got there too early. More true trap games though. I look at that UTSA game on December 7th. That's what I'm going to be watching pretty closely. It's tucked in between that road trip to Miami, and then go into the Garden to play Michigan. Right? I mean, those are 2 Saturdays. No, it's not. That's not true. 2 Tuesdays, whatever it is, and maybe that's the weekend game. But those 2 games are a week apart, and that one's right in the middle. It's easy to get caught in that spot, and I think UTSA, like I said, they got a new coach, was an assistant in Alabama. He's brought in a lot of high major guards onto that roster, so they're going to play fast. They're going to have some talent. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. If you're sleepwalking in that game, they can jump out on you early and it can get interesting real quick. So that would be one that I would have an eye on there. And then maybe December 30th against Oakland. I don't think you slip here. I don't, because of who they're playing, right? And the history, like everybody for a game against a mid-major, on December 30th, with the students not coming back on the campus yet or whatever, like this is going to be talked about a lot just because of what happened with Oakland and Coach Cal last year. So I like it from that standpoint. But it's always tricky, that post-Christmas game. If an SEC game is not your first one after that, that one gets tricky because you're going to have a long layoff. I think it's going to be like 9 days between games. And then you're playing this Oakland team that they can get you. They already got Cal. But you got that road trip to Tennessee right on the horizon. That's an easy one to have, some Christmas cookie legs, and then maybe you're excited and you're juiced up for the start of SEC play, and you forget you got an opponent in a game that you got to win right there in front of you. So another one there to keep an eye on for the Razorbacks. But I think that's going to do it for us for today. It's fun to talk a little bit of non-conference scheduling. We got a lot of basketball content coming your way. They're getting ready to start some full practices and preseason stuff. A lot of recruiting activities starting to heat up for Coach Cal with that 2025 class. So a lot more to come your way, but appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, this has been the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the Pod at the Palace edition. I'm Curtis Wilkerson. I'll be back with you soon. Everybody have a good one.